Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and a very warm welcome to episode 8 with the Arabic with Sam podcast. As promised last week, last week I went over my top 10 favourite Arabic verbs, and as promised, this week we're going to be talking about the Night of Power. So those of you who are Muslims, you probably know what I'm referring to when I talk about the Night of Power. And, and the reason why I wanted to do this is because I think it's just, we can take out so many insights when we do a little word-for-word walkthrough of ayats from the Quran. Obviously, the Quran is the epitome of Arabic grammar, it's the epitome of Arabic eloquence, and from it we can take out a lot of wisdom. So really, I just want to go today and have a little look at just one ayah, very short ayah, and just show you how many gems we can pull out from it. And I've deliberately chosen this one because the things that are in it are things that my students often trip up on. So that's the main reason why I do it. So I'm going to just make one very, very quick shout out before we get into the nitty gritty of it. So if you're serious about learning the Arabic language, you're going to need a program, because if you don't, most of the time you're guessing. Most of the time you're guessing whether this book works or whether this book doesn't, whether this podcast is going to work or whether this podcast isn't. You don't really have that much accountability to make sure that you're consistent in your studies, and you are, as he said in the Quran, rajiman bil ghaib. You're kind of chucking stones in the dark. You're kind of guessing here and there as to whether this is going to bear results for you. So I'd like to invite you from the bottom of my heart onto my program so I can take care of you guys, inshallah. If you want to find more information about my premium program, my flagship course, Arabic in 60 Steps, then go over to www.arabicwithsam.com/60. That's 60, just the numbers, 60. So www.arabicwithsam.com/60, and then you'll get yourself onto the program. So back to the actual main episode of the podcast, back to the main content of it, and I'll slow down a little bit. I'm talking quickly. I've calmed down a little bit. I'm just so excited. That's the thing. There's a whole week in between my podcast episodes. I'm just too excited. That's the problem. That's my problem. So, good. So, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about something from the Quran. So, what kind of Arabic is this, Sam? Is this Egyptian dialect Arabic? Is this Libyan Arabic, Sam? Well, the Quran was revealed in Saudi Arabia, so is it Saudi Arabian Arabic? No, is the answer to all of those questions. When we talk about Quran, when we talk about the Quran, all of this stuff which conforms to the Arabic language of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of this is under the term of Fusha. All of this comes under the term of Fusha. And actually, we quite often confuse Arabic students by using terms like Quranic Arabic, Classical Arabic, modern standard Arabic, ancient Arabic. There are a lot of these different terms that I hear bounded about, and often it becomes very confusing. So really, all the Arabic that I teach in any of my programs is Fusha. It's all Fusha. There's either dialects, which are branches of Arabic, and almost, in my opinion, as I've controversially made clear, I almost consider them not Arabic anymore, like spoken dialects that people speak. And then everything else, which behaves within the framework of Arabic's grammar and Arabic's vocabulary, that is all Fusha, really, okay? So when we talk about Quranic Arabic, we're just talking about the Arabic which appears in the Quran. It is just the study of the Quran. Like, a lot of the time, when people talk about having courses, like, I want to learn Quranic Arabic, like, as if it's a language. Like Quranic Arabic isn't talking about learning a whole language. It's about learning a book. So the term Quranic Arabic isn't sort of on the same. It's not the same kind of thing that we mean when we're talking about learning a whole dialect. We're going to learn Fusha, or we're going to learn, or modern standard Arabic, however you want to refer to it. Right? We're not talking about the same thing. Like, Quranic Arabic is just the Fusha, which is used in the Quran, and it's not a whole restudy of the Arabic language. It's just understanding the linguistic behaviors and the vocabulary behaviors that Allah Azza wa Jal, in His majesty and in His eloquence, uses in the Quran. So let's see an example of this. So, we're going to have a look at an ayah from Suratul Qadr. Suratul Qadr. So a surah, for those of you who do not know, is just a chapter of the Quran. It's not a good translation to call it a chapter, but that's kind of what it is. It's a section, it's a part of the Quran. And surah is spelled with a sin, by the way. A lot of students get confused with suratun, which is a surah of the Quran, and surah, which is spelled with a sad, which means a picture. And it is also particularly confusing because the two have the same plural. If you want to say pictures, you say suwar. And also if you want to say surahs of the Quran, you say suwar. So they have the same plural, a surah and a picture. But the only difference between those two words is that it's a sad instead of a sin when you're talking about a picture. So a surah, the section of the Quran of Al-Qadr. Al-Qadr. Qadr is sort of the term that we use for kind of predeterminism, what we call things that are written. The things that are written for us. That's kind of what it's referring to in the Quran. And the night of power, we're going to learn something very special about the night of power. Qadr is also referred to as power as well. So it's often called like the surah of power. And when we talk about the night of power, we say Laylatul Qadr. We're saying the night of power. So we're going to learn about that night. We're going to learn a characteristic of that night, and I'm going to kind of go through it word for word. This ayah has 6 words in it. That's all. Only 6 words. And but there's just so much we can bring out of it. Okay, I've actually got it right in front of me, so I'm going to write some notes on it as I go along. So how does it go? Okay, obviously بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم and بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We seek refuge with Allah from the accursed shaitan, and we begin by the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Allah says, Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr. Allah says, Laylatu. So this right here, what we have right here is quite simple, right? What we have here is actually just a mudaf and a mudaf ilay. A lot of you will have heard of an idafa before. But for those of you who haven't, it's just a possessive construction. If we ever say, the son of Muhammad, it's a kind of possession. Or if we say, the house of Allah, or the beginning of the course, or the podcast of Sam. It's a possessive construction. That's usually what idafas are doing. So we're saying the night of power, and that's why even though we're saying the night, we're not saying al-layla. We're just saying laylatu, because the characteristic of the first part of an idafa is that we don't have al at the beginning. We just say laylatu. But the second part of the idafa, what we refer to as the mudaf ilay, it does have al, and it also has to have a kasra on the end, or it has to be the majroor case. Most of the time that means it has a kasra. So that's why it is Laylatul Qadri, the night of power, or the night of sort of predeterminism. Laylatul Qadri. Okay, what happens next? Khayron. Laylatul Qadri khayron. So we actually expand this out right now. Like we've actually made that a sentence. We've actually said the night of power is better. The word khayr means better, or it means good. And it means good sort of intrinsically. It doesn't mean good at doing something. Like if you're good at making coffee, it doesn't mean that you're khayr in making coffee. It means that you are intrinsically good. It is intrinsically a good thing. It's talking about literally the moral good, rather than being good at demonstrating something, is what khayr is. It's different to ahsan. The word ahsan is used to literally mean that someone is better at doing something. Often Allah Azza wa Jal in the Quran says ahsanu amala. He is better in actions. He's actually better in doing a specific thing. But if someone is khayrun min something, if something is better than something, it's saying that it is better in like an intrinsically good sense. But what's actually expanded to happen here is this is actually now a jumla ismiya. Now this has become a jumla ismiya, a noun sentence. This is a sentence that we've got right here, but it's actually not. It's not got any verbs in it. There's no verbs in there, so we refer to it as a noun sentence or a jumla ismiya. And actually, in a jumla ismiya, we have what we call a mubtada, the thing that we begin the sentence with, and then we have what we call a khabar, the thing that we learn about the mubtada. The term khabar actually means news. So it's sort of the news that we learn about the mubtada. So now this whole idafa that we had at the beginning is the mubtada of the sentence. Laylatul Qadri, the night of power, that is the mubtada. All of that is the mubtada. Laylatul Qadr, the night of power, is the mubtada, and khayron is the is the khabar. That is the khabar. And then we say min. Often you have khayrun min something. Those of you who have lived in the Arab world or lived in a country where they make the adhan aloud, you'll have heard them say in the morning, as-salatu khayrun min an-nawm. It says as-salatu, the salah is khayrun, it is better, min an-nawm, than sleep. Salah is better than sleep. Because obviously that's one of the biggest tests of the mu'min. One of the biggest tests of the believers, especially these days, is us, especially at the moment in the UK, it's turned very cold this week. When it's particularly cold and you have the crisp, icy winters of us living in Europe, it makes it particularly particularly difficult to wake up and pray Fajr in the morning. I remember when I pretty much when I first embraced Islam. I'd only been a Muslim for a couple of years. Some of my best friends in Cornwall are also people who embraced Islam as well. We come from similar white Cornish backgrounds, and there's about four of us, and we were staying in the masjid one day. Obviously we come from families who are non-Muslims, and sometimes we'd sort of feel a bit lonely, and we'd sort of sleep in the masjid together sometimes, and the four of us would, waking each other up in the morning for Fajr was almost like a physical pain, almost like a physical pain that we would go through for our own sort of spiritual development. And we'd wake up, and obviously in the masjid, it's not like, back then anyway, like our wudu room was like a sort of temporary extension with no heating or anything like that. So we were going into this cold room, and the taps would just never warm up. Our hands were already blue with the cold, running our hands under these cold, freezing cold taps. Alhamdulillah. But I have really happy memories of those times. But that is a time when in the adhan we would hear as-salatu khayrun min an-nawm. The salah is better than the sleep that we were enjoying before. So what is it better than? We've got the night of power. Laylatul Qadri khayrun. The night of power is better. Min is better than. Min literally means from, or it means of in Arabic, really. But when you use it with what you call a tafdeel, when you use it with like a comparative word, like if you're saying that something is bigger or better or or more beautiful or stronger, you always say min after when you're comparing two things. If you say that someone is stronger than someone else, huwa aqwa min blah blah blah, or he is he is I don't know, whatever akbar min is bigger than, or asghar min, or smaller than something, or whatever adjective you're using. So in this case, we're saying that it is better than. What is it better than? Elfi, not better than an elf, not better than an elf or a hobbit or something. It's better than elfi, better than 1,000. The word elf means 1,000, and obviously it has to be elfi rather than elfu or elfa, because it's min. Because it's min, and min being a preposition or a harf jar, it has to make the next word, the word elf, have a kasra on the end. Min elfi. And I remember there's a brother, may Allah bless him, Sudanese brother, may Allah bless him, I went to university with. He was sort of one of the first people who made friends with me. And I remember him talking me through this ayah. I remember him explaining to me what it meant. And I was a real beginner at that point. I'd only been learning Arabic for a few months, and and at that point I thought he was reading it wrong. I thought that it should be, because the word shahr means a month. Okay, one shahr is a month, and the plural is either ashhur, ashhur or shuhur. You can use either of those. Shuhur. Ashhur is definitely used in the Quran though. So I thought he was making a mistake. I thought it should be alfi ashhur, but it's not. It's alfi shahr, because with Arabic numbers, if you were listening to my Arabic numbers podcast that I did recently, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, that I did Arabic numbers podcast. I was talking in that podcast about how actually it's only the numbers from 3 to 10 which you use the plural of the word afterwards. So, for example, if we're talking about cups, we're talking about a korb. Okay, I have a cup of coffee in front of me. If we're talking about a korb, okay, we'd say one korb, korb wahid. If we're talking about 2 cups, we'd say korbani, two korbs. And then it's only from 3 to 10 that you use the plural. You say akwab, ثلاثة أكواب, أربعة أكواب, خمسة أكواب. If you're they're the only ones you use the plural with. All the numbers above 10, you actually don't use the plural anymore. You say 11 cup, 12 cup, and that's the same with the number 1,000. You say 1,000 cup, or in this case 1,000 month. But the thing that you're counting, the thing you're saying there's 1,000 of, needs to be majroor as well. It has to be indefinite and majroor. So it has to be shahrin. If it was 1,000 days, it'd be alfi yawmin. If it was 1,000 years, it'd be alfi sanatin. Good, but in this case it's 1,000 months. So the night of power, Laylatul Qadri, khayrun, is better, min, than, elfi, 1,000, shahrin, months. The night of power is better than 1,000 months, which works out to about 83 years, I think. This is kind of strangely timed podcast, really. It would make sense for me to do this in the last 10 days of Ramadan, because we know that the night of power is a night in the last 10 days of Ramadan. And there are also a hadith as well that suggests that it's in the odd nights, that we should search for it in the odd nights. So it would make sense for me to do that then, but it came to mind, we haven't really done anything from the Quran in this podcast specifically, and I thought it was about time we did. So that was something that I thought would take a lot of benefits out of. There are a lot of things we can talk about in there. And also just to address the term Quranic Arabic as well, because I think a lot of people think if they learn Quranic Arabic, then that equips them to sort of have conversations in Arabic, or to access, hadith, or to access Arabic literature more broadly, but it doesn't necessarily do so. But the other way around does. Like if you start your foundations with Fusha, which is what I encourage everyone to do. My Arabic in 60 Steps program is only a standard Arabic, it's only a Fusha program. And then, it's from that platform that it's much easier to branch out, to do dialects if you wish to do so later, or to really narrow in on your knowledge of the language that's in the Quran, then you can obviously do so from there. When you've got the platform of having a good Fusha base, that is what, that is what kind of fosters the best Arabic students and Arabic graduates as well from Arabic universities. But so that's what I always advise. But it's a very select and very special kind of student who makes it through that, because it is hard to do something for a long time with such little results. But that's a characteristic of all successful Arabic students, that they persist. The only difference between most Arabic students and you is that you might give up, but they didn't. That's pretty much the only difference. That's why I always say as well, that the best course, the best program for learning Arabic is the one you're actually going to complete. Like the best way to ensure that you actually do achieve what you want to learning Arabic is to make sure that you have a framework around you to make you finish it, or to make you carry on going, because it's just not something that you're going to learn in a few weeks. Sorry. It's just not something that you are going to master to that level in that short amount of time. So you need to keep yourself accountable, you need to keep yourself consistent, and but obviously I'm here to help. If you have any questions or anything, obviously you can get in touch with me, DM me on Instagram, or email me, arabicwithsam@gmail.com. Come over to my website if you haven't done already. Come and have a look around and see what I'm about and what I get up to. That's arabicwithsam.com. And that's it for this week, I believe. On the YouTube channel, come over to the YouTube channel on Wednesday. We've nearly finished doing a walkthrough of the story of Prophet Hud alayhi salam, and we're very, very close to me giving away a free course on reading the story of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, which we can do afterwards, inshallah. So we've got a load of stuff coming up, a load of exciting stuff coming up. I'm here to support you guys. Hope to see you guys inside my program if you think it's right for you. And that's it. I'll catch you guys next week in next week's podcast. I pray that you guys have a really, really nice week, and take it easy. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.